Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 115 of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman, and I want to welcome you to a podcast here. As I'm recording, it's just after midnight, about 12:30 a.m. my time, and I'm trying a dual camera setup, my phone right there, and from a different angle, probably extremely wide angle, an old GoPro that I had from about 2014. So we're going to be trying that out, and I'm recording this separately, so this will also be an audio format. But anyway, welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. This is episode 115, and we are going to just talk real briefly. It's going to be a brief episode. We're going to talk about the box office numbers. Everybody was talking about the re-release, even though it was still in like 985 theaters around the country, but Avengers Endgame, and they added if you hadn't seen it, spoiler alert, if you didn't get to see it this weekend, I guess you'll see it on the Blu-ray in July, I think the end of July, Blu-ray, download, whatever. Anyway, but, so there was a version of the Hulk storyline, okay? And it was before we got Professor Hulk, and it was basically a burning building, and then we see Hulk come, and he gets this big satellite dish, and he's actually in the form of the Hulk, the Professor Hulk that we see, that made the final cut of Avengers. And the Russo brothers said that it just didn't feel right for the film, the final cut of the film, so we got the longer extended version where we first see Professor Hulk when he's signing the kids' autographs, and it's much more personable. It's a lot better scene. And then we got this elongated version of a Stan Lee tribute, a really fitting tribute. And then we got some preview scenes of Maria Hill and Nick Fury going to this desert locale, essentially. I think it was Mexico, actually. And they see this town tore up, and it's one of what they call, which you find out later in that clip, the elementals. And that's when Maria Hill's like, why are we bothering with this? This isn't really important. There's bigger fish to fry, so to speak. And Samuel Jackson, his character Nick Fury, insists that they continue on, so they do. And then you see just kind of swoosh in, or whatever, is Jake Gyllenhaal's character in Spider-Man Far From Home, and that's the third part of the preview that was all tacked on to the end of Avengers Endgame. So there was nothing in the film. If you've seen it before, there's really no big reason to go see it. I unfortunately was working on a film project, so I could not go this weekend, and so I would have liked to go, but I guess I had the opportunity. I just didn't really make it, and I've seen it 4 times, so it's still a fantastic movie. It's one of the best films of the Marvel universe and a lot of other universes out there. Certainly better than DC. But anyway, so Maria Hill and Samuel Jackson's character, Nick Fury. It's just brain wasn't working for a minute. So they see, they're in the Jake Gyllenhaal's character there, and they basically, he's like, you don't want any of this, it's basically what we see from the trailers, and he fights this sand monster, the Sandman or whatever, but you find out later they're elementals is what they call them, and supposedly Jake Gyllenhaal's multiverse, he explains the multiverse, which opens up so many possibilities everybody's been talking about online, and that were caused by the snap. I think they're calling it, what do they call it, the blip or the beep or something like that. He ends up as Mysterio. Obviously he's Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and he basically is trying to set himself up to be the replacement, the heir apparent to Iron Man. Well, it's Peter Parker, who's Spider-Man, really is the heir apparent, and he is going to be the most important character pretty much through phase 4. And we're going to get very soon from the Marvel panel, we'll end up getting a synopsis, of maybe an outline, probably a few shockers there, probably saying, hey, Fantastic Four is coming. Maybe they'll talk about the X-Men coming into the Marvel universe, the MCU, but that's going to be several years down the road. So, and especially after the debacle of Dark Phoenix, I think it's probably wise to just give the franchise a rest for a little bit, give it a few years at least, and then they can start ramping things up. But knowing Marvel, that another $1 billion industry, they can franchise that. If they can build it, they will. And Marvel's just incredible that way, so that's pretty cool, and excited for what's coming up on the announcements there. But anyway, so part of, no one's officially said it, but it was one of the first things I thought, first things a lot of people thought is, why were they re-releasing Avengers Endgame into theaters? And like I said, it was still in about 700-800 theaters, still playing locally here, and this is its 10th week of release, so they added about a couple thousand, at least 1,000, 1,200 or so roughly, theaters to it. I'm trying to look up some of the statistics here if I can, and these are early numbers, and so it looks like they added about, just a little over 1,000 theaters were added, and so we got roughly 5.5 million more put on the bottom line domestically, and then internationally we got a little bit closer to that. So if we look at the all-time box office worldwide grosses, this combines the domestic and the international box office, and Avengers is now sitting at 841, and these numbers are not confirmed. It's early Monday, July 1st when I'm recording this, so later on today we'll find out what the final numbers are, and hopefully they'll be revised up enough to beat Avatar at the worldwide box office. So Avatar sits at, well, first off, let's just talk about Endgame first. So Endgame is at 841 million. It had roughly, like last week, it had about, I think it was 45 million going in roughly to break the record set by Avatar. And not domestically, because it's beat it domestically. If we look domestic to domestic, and it's not going to catch The Force Awakens from 2015. That's got like 936 million domestic, so it's going to remain the number one domestic grossing movie of all time in the U.S. And Avengers Endgame is going to come, I think, right next to it at number 2. But anyway, so they beefed it up a little bit, and we're looking roughly $1,920,000,000 estimated overseas. So you put the domestics and overseas together, you get $2,761,000,000 and some odd change for the worldwide total of Avengers Endgame. Now we're looking at a difference of 27 million short of Avatar, because Avatar is at 2,788,000,000. 760.5 million of that was domestic versus the 841 that is Avengers Endgame. So, it's obviously beat it on the domestic side, but not the 936 to beat Star Wars The Force Awakens. So, but when you look at overseas, Avatar did $2 billion, $2,027,000,000 and some odd change. And so far, the overseas total is only $1,920,000,000 for Avengers Endgame. And while these are great numbers, they're just, unfortunately, for Endgame, not enough. So what we got out of that re-release, as they're calling it, or of Avengers Endgame, it had fallen out of the top 10 in its 9th week. So 8 weeks it spent in the top 10. It's very good, That's what, 4, 8, that's 2 months. So, and I mean, it charged out of the gate. I mean, it broke all kinds of records, and some of those records may stand for a while, but, Avatar has had a re-release. Avengers, I wouldn't honestly call this a re-release. They released it back to more theaters, so it got almost 179% bump in its weekend gross. So it did like 5.5 million roughly. So domestic, that's domestic numbers. They added about 1,000 theaters, so that put it in about just over 2,000 theaters. Now, the number one movie for a second week, which is a fantastic movie, is in 4,500 cinemas, theaters, Toy Story 4. And it ended up with a almost $58 million second week, which is a 52% drop, which is typical of films. They usually drop about half of their business. Looking at roughly almost 237 million domestic. So great for Toy Story 4. If you hadn't seen it, you should go out and see it. We have Yesterday, which I went and saw this weekend, and I loved it. It was a great movie. And I know there's this kind of rebranding or appropriation, what do you want to call it, of like the classic music. This case, we have, which is still in the top 10 and has made about $84 million on a $40 million budget, Rocketman, which I say should be Oscar nominated. It's one of my big picks, and the gentleman who played Elton John certainly should get a Best Actor nod. Of course, we're following on the footsteps of The Wind by Rami Malek, and portraying it in a wonderful film, Bohemian Rhapsody. I've got a friend of mine, a friend of the podcast here, and he does not like the fact that he won at all. He does not like the portrayal, because really Rami Malek was lip syncing, even though he captured the essence of who Freddie Mercury was. But there were things glossed over and things, when you put the actual truth to it, that weren't really true. And then if you compare that to Rocketman, the trend of these movies, as I was saying, that are, taking old songs or stories or biopics, essentially. Yesterday falls in that, obviously, with a nod to the Beatles music, and it's a different take on it. and it opened the weekend on a $26 million budget. It opened at $17 million, and I'm not sure if that's considered a disappointment, but I thought it was a wonderful film. Did it have some issues? Yes, it did. There was about 2 or 3 scenes where it just kind of dragged a little bit. It seemed redundant. There were a few, like 3 redundant scenes and there that didn't need to really happen. It could have paced the film better, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. My wife was trying to shut me up because I was trying to sing along in the theater. Anyway, so we look at Rocket Man, which is still in the top 10, 5 weeks it's been out. It's doubled, on a $40 million budget, it's doubled it to $84 million total gross domestically. So we're talking an excellent biopic. It pulled in almost $3.8 million this weekend alone, and it's been dropping modestly 20-30% every week. So it just dropped about 31% this week, and it's doing great. It's only in about 2,000 theaters, so if you hadn't seen it, rush out and see Rocket Man. I definitely suggest you should go see Rocket Man. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Child's Play tumbled. It, I guess it was in number 8 with like 4.2 million. It fell almost 70%. There's been some bombs this year at theaters, and there's been some really great films. Toy Story 4, loved it. Toy Story 3 was my favorite of the Toy Story movies, and Toy Story 4 is a little bit different, but I don't know if it's the last one they do, but it feels like a kind of changing of the guard, and at the very least, but beautiful. I mean, Disney, Pixar does such wonderful animation. It's incredible. It's so lifelike, and I have Waze and Spotify in my car, and on my phone or whatever that I use for directions and stuff, and you can customize where you have Woody, Tom Hanks' character, and Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen's character. They say little things like, "Okay, partner, it's time to mosey on in a quarter of a mile to the right," or whatever. It's really cool. So you can do those voices in there. It's kind of cool. And they mix it up, of course. And then there is, but anyway, Toy Story dominated the box office, and it should. Toy Story 4 was awesome. Number 2 for the week was Annabelle, brand new, rolling in with $31 million. It's part of the Conjuring series. Don't really care. It's a little too scary for me. Just not my forte. But it pulled in a solid 20 million. Yesterday, obviously, it came in number 3, as we said, with $17 million on a $26 million budget. So it's got a chance of at least breaking even, hopefully making a profit. I know it'll probably take a steep fall next week, but hopefully not, though. Hopefully the word of mouth is out there. It's a really good film. Is it as good as Rocket Man? Not so much. But if you're a Beatles fan, there's definitely one scene in there that's gonna almost bring you to tears, and happy tears, and but I highly suggest you see Yesterday. It was definitely up there, but it falls in line with those films, like I was saying, that are talking about dealing with music. But there's one about Bruce Springsteen's music affecting, I believe, a gentleman of Indian descent, or from India, and it looks very interesting. It's like his music is speaking to me, and he's like, it's a nice spin on it, and if that's a way I can get some of the music that I grew up, especially 80s, we've got the 60s covered with Yesterday, and 70s a little bit, and definitely, late 60s, 70s, the early 70s. Well, they broke up in 69, 70. The Beatles together 4 years, I think, commercially. But anyway, I could be wrong. But Rocket Man, obviously, Elton John's still around making music. But his best stuff is just showcased so well in Rocket Man. And then, we think about Bohemian Rhapsody. I came out of that film. I was like playing Queen music and singing along with it. Same way I was with Rocket Man. I mean, I was, playing YouTube videos and, listening on my music player and stuff like that. And, because it's just exciting. I mean, it just gets you into the film, and it's just really cool. I want to talk about Dark Phoenix for a minute. I've been meaning to podcast, and technically, I guess I didn't get a podcast in probably for one of the first times in the 4-ish years I've been doing the podcast. I think one of the few times I didn't at least do one episode a month on the Geek Homeworld podcast. I've been working on several film-related projects, so I've been kind of busy, and life, gets in the way, but I'm very thankful for any opportunities and the ones that I have. And today I got to work on a film short, and it was really fun production. A great group of people. I also have a show called Savannah on Film. You may have heard me talk about it. So if you go to Facebook, look up Savannah on Film, and you can see me live there each Saturday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. my local time, East Coast time. And I talk to people in all levels of the film industry, so it's really fun. And this last episode was an interactive show. I had a little problem with getting the video set up and such, but the audio podcast is out there. It's also a podcast now, Savannah on Film. So anyway, that sounds like a commercial break, and but you can find Savannah on Film, the podcast, which is basically the audio of the radio show. You can find it on Anchor. It's on it's being distributed there for Google Podcast. Just look for Savannah on Film, and you can check it out. It's some really good stuff. I've been doing it for just over a year, and I've broken it up into seasons. So the first like the 52 weeks of that, it wasn't calendar year, it was June 15th, June 16th of 2018 when I started it. So if I had 48 different shows. So there was a few weeks there I took off. I think St. Patrick's Day, which is like massively busy down in downtown Savannah, where I record at the studio there. And so I didn't do a show then, and there was a couple weeks around Christmas I didn't do a show. And then I think there was one other week, I forgot what it was. There's just another week I wasn't able to. And I think I had a car accident or something, because I wasn't able, just physically wasn't able to do it. But so I did pretty good, I think. And sometimes I've had multiple guests. I think the most guests I've had on a show are 3. And soon they may be able to handle a 4th person, or actually more than that. So we did some upgrades at the station, so that's awesome. Or they did, And in case you don't know, it's on WRUU.org. You can listen to the radio, Savannah on Film there every Saturday. I guess it's Eastern Standard Time, whatever East Coast time is here in the U.S. And so you can listen there worldwide. Or if you're in Savannah, it's 107.5 FM. That's 107.5 FM. Anyway, so kind of got off on a tangent there, and so bear with me here. But Dark Phoenix, I want to talk about it. I can find the good in bad, terrible films. Dark Phoenix is a mess, but it's the worst, lowest. It's only done $63 million It fell out of top 10 this week. And I mean, they've cut the theaters down like dramatically. It fell like another 50%, but it fell almost 70 to almost 80% from its opening weekend to, the other weekends, its second weekend. So, but I came out of the film and I enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I can find the good in what some people or even the majority says are bad. Like The Last Stand, it was a retelling, essentially trying to get it right, of the Dark Phoenix saga, obviously, and the storyline. And I thought they did okay with it. It could have been much better, just like X-Men Apocalypse. There's a continuity issue because at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, Jean uses the Phoenix Force, and Charles is like, "Let go, Jean, let go," and then she uses the Phoenix Force, and she basically obliterates Apocalypse, and he's like, "All is revealed." And well, they just kind of forget about that. The film's a mess because they did it right now, and this, so she didn't have the Phoenix Force until they went in to save the space shuttle, and this was set in the 90s. They followed that thing where, through the 4 films of the X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, which was still one of the best films, then X-Men Apocalypse, and then Dark Phoenix. So it got worse. It went downhill. And the Fox with the X-Men franchise, they've been hit or miss at best. But certainly not on the level of what Disney's doing with Avengers. But now that there were a lot of things against Dark Phoenix. I mean, its production got pushed back. Had it come out before Captain Marvel, it had a similar ending to Captain Marvel. And today I just saw on the net that it had the same, like the storyboards revealed, it basically had the ending that Captain America did. Captain America. Captain Marvel had, where Brie Larson's character basically flew off, in outer space, and you kind of see that, little Phoenix thing flying away, and they tie up things a little bit nicely. And I tell you, the people in the film did their best. Jennifer Lawrence, that line about it, is pushing an agenda or something. It just felt forced. They shouldn't call it the X-Men because the women are always saving your butts. And if that's true, that's true. But I don't know why it seemed like that was necessary. I don't think it was necessary. But anyway, I still enjoyed Dark Phoenix. If it comes on TV, I'm gonna watch it. It's okay. It's not great. It's certainly got its issues, but I enjoyed it. I have to say, I enjoyed it. So if we're looking at another film, well, that fell out of the top 10, but in 4th place this week with about 9 million, only falling about 30% again. Even though it lost 200 theaters, is Aladdin. And I thought this was going to be a bomb, and I think a lot of people did. When they saw the early CGI, they were like, ugh, I don't know. It's certainly not, as I've said before, it's certainly not a replacement for the Robin Williams portrayal in the original animated film, but it is a good film. And Will Smith has got that magnetic personality, and he puts his own spin on things, and he's not trying to be Robin Williams. And I mean, it really should have been called The Jasmine. It should have been called Jasmine, like the Jasmine film. There's really a great, empowering song that the lady who plays Jasmine gets to sing, and she sings it with such belief and such strength. It is a great moment of the film. And I enjoyed Aladdin. It was fun. I mean, they could have done some things better. They could have made, I almost said Mustafar, but it's not Mufasa. Oh, Lord. I'm getting mixed up here. It's a little late, and been a long day. But Jafar. I think it's Jafar. Is it Jafar? I don't know. I'm asking the wall. I'm asking you, is it Jafar? The bad guy. Anyway, much better in the cartoon, much more menacing, not so threatening in this film. And The Secret Life of Pets 2, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Aladdin's done $305 million on a $183 million budget. So success, Disney. You did a good job. And I know Maleficent 2 is coming out. I hope that is good. I enjoyed the first one. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for Disney Plus when it comes out. Sign me up. I'm ready for it. An incredible price. They're going to have everything. They'll eventually have all the Marvel films like WandaVision, which is an interesting one. I love the character of Vision, and I was kind of sad that they didn't bring him back. But if they brought him back, it probably would have belittled his death in Infinity War. But I'm glad they brought it back. I'm glad it's coming back. There's, the Loki series. I'm so interested in how that's going to turn out. They're working on the film for what's her name? Romanoff. I can't think of her name. Natasha Romanoff. She is Black Widow? Black Canary? No, that's DC. Black Widow. Black Widow? Is that her name? I think. I'm not sure. I can't think. I should look it up, but I'm too lazy. But yeah, that's filming now. So she sacrificed herself with the Soul Stone, and there's no coming back from that. So I don't know how, that works out. So after the events in Avengers Endgame, but I'm excited. There's a lot coming. And Disney Plus is gonna have The Mandalorian, so that I think will be good. Of course, we're getting Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm trying not to get overly excited about it. I'm trying to stay just very, very low expectations, and I really hope that they pay it off with showing, giving fan service to, the prequels, the original trilogy, and I mean, we've heard Mark Hamill's coming back as a Force ghost, which we all kind of expected. I don't see that as being spoiler, but he confirmed it. So maybe that is a bit of a spoiler, but I don't know. So I'm still going to see it. I'm still going to enjoy it. Hopefully J.J. Abrams can wrap up 9 movies over the span of, in our lifetime, or at least my lifetime, 42 years. I mean, I'm a little bit older than that, but 77 is when the original came out, and of course there was 14 years there wasn't a film, and after The Last Jedi and blah blah blah. But that span of time, in real life, something that spanned about 40, just a little over 42 years, to kind of bring all that to a close, and satisfy the new fans, but definitely the old fans who are a lot of them very disgruntled after The Last Jedi and how Luke Skywalker died, including Mark Hamill. And so just really hoping that they can get that right and they can just figure it out. So that would be wonderful. It would be super fantastic. If anybody can fix it, J.J. Abrams could. So I know George Lucas has consulted with him on how to direct and, Luke Skywalker's character, so I hope they just do a lot of fan service. I'm excited about Palpatine coming back. I want there to be some mention that there's Darth Plagueis. I want them to tie that together. If Snoke is Darth Plagueis, that's what we thought, and we got our expectations subverted. Well, not satisfied, but in Solo, is probably a better film than it got credit for. There's things about it I don't like. I don't like how he got his name. Just, it's nothing to it. It's kind of like Nick Fury, Flurkin scratched his eye out. I mean, we wanted more, but, I can forgive that, I suppose. But Solo felt the wrath of the backlash and all the political correctness and just the plot points that just didn't make sense, and they didn't give the fans what they wanted versus Marvel that gave the fans what they needed. And Endgame may or may not be a better film than Infinity War, because there was that build-up, there was that uncertainty, and nobody knew the snap was how they were going to end it. And it originally wasn't the way they were going to do that, but it was perfect how it ended with the snap, and they were like, what? That's going to be a film that's going to go down as probably the greatest superhero film of all time, Infinity War. And I tell you, it's like The Dark Knight and then The Dark Knight Rises. Endgame is different than that. It's got even more, it tacks on everything. It's like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Not The Hobbit, but Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like Return of the King. It just kept going. It was so epic. And that's how Avengers Endgame is. And but when you compare it to Infinity War they're different, totally different films. So I'm glad they're not, Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. But the Marvel Universe is going on Phase 4 after Spider-Man Far From Home. Then that ends Phase 3. And we're going to look back. Somebody said this a long time ago, or weeks ago. That's not a long time ago, but I guess it feels like it. So, said that, one day we're going to look back and we're going to say that these 22-ish movies that made up this portion of like Phase 1 to Phase 3 of the MCU were the best. Not all of them individually, because there's some stinkers in there or not so good ones, but even when Marvel does a bad film, it's still okay. It's still watchable. It's still enjoyable. But we're going to look back and this comment was, we're going to look back and we're going to say that was like the golden age of things. Like, for me, I enjoyed the X-Men films, but for me, the 90s cartoon nailed it. See, I don't like the way in the X-Men films, me personally, the way they treated Cyclops like a punk, and like that, for me, the biggest thing about that stuck in my crow that made me upset was the fact that Jean, no matter if she was Dark Phoenix or whatever, she would never ever kill Scott. It just wouldn't happen. And Scott had to take more of a back role because the wonderful Hugh Jackman, I don't want to take anything from him because Logan's a masterpiece. It transcends. It's up there with Dark Knight. It transcends the genre of superhero films. I don't know that Avengers Endgame or even Infinity War does, but they come very close. But they're still superhero films. Dark Knight was just it's just Christopher Nolan at his best, making some great film work there, and he's done plenty of others that were great too. And so I just don't see it being one of those films that I don't know what to say, but I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there. But I probably need to bring this episode to a close. It's kind of running a little long here. But anyway, I could go on and on about franchise, but and talking about different films that I like. like I said, I guess to sum it up, I like the X-Men films, but the cartoons captured the essence of it. And now I remember my point I was going to make. Hugh Jackman was such a captivating part of being Wolverine that when he played the character of Wolverine, he did it so well that there's going to be nobody else. It's like Robert Downey Jr. nailed the character of Tony Stark. He is Tony Stark, and I just saw a meme that said on Facebook that said, they're talking about different characters being replaced, and like Thor was the king and now the queen is Valkyrie or whatever, that he gave it over to Asgard, and they were like, terrible loser, whatever, Tony Stark, and he's like, I'm not replaceable over here, something like that. And that's typical Tony Stark. So that character was written for Robert Downey Jr. I mean, if there was ever a character that was written to be the way that the actor was, or vice versa, I mean, he just slides into that role so easily, and he can play it effortlessly. And but we see Tony evolve, and by the time we get to Endgame, he has a family and a cute little daughter there, and it's wonderful. And it's crazy because it's nice to see that evolution of a character, and Robert Downey Jr. is the heart and soul of just like Chris Evans was, of the MCU. I mean, those two guys, wow, and I know it messes up the timeline. There's so many questions about the time travel and Endgame and how it works, and all the films that they mentioned, like Back to the Future. And I'm not going to hate on those films because it's a classic. I love those films. But in the Terminator films, I know there's some stinkers in there, but I still love the franchise, and I'm excited for Terminator Dark Fate. James Cameron coming back with Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, so I'm excited. It's predicted to possibly be one of the bombs of this year, but I don't want it to be. I mean, even I can find something good in a Terminator movie. Of course, the second one, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I saw that 7 times, and that's when you had to pay for films. Now I've got the AMC A-list, which AMC is just about the only theater chain, I think the only one left in my city here. We're a pretty big city, but I love the A-list program, and so I get to see up to 3 movies a week. Love it. But back in the day when Terminator 2 came out, I spent my hard-earned money, which it wasn't $10 or $15 to see a film, and we didn't have big D or whatever those, we didn't have IMAX back then, certainly not here. And so I remember going to the theater and watching that. I love that film, and I would just watch it over and over, and I've seen it probably hundreds of times, the Terminator films. I don't know, I love the idea of time travel. I love the idea of Skynet. Even Terminator 3, with Skynet being the internet, basically, was a novel idea. Even though that's not the greatest of the films, it felt, at that point, it was kind of like popcorn candy kind of, films. And then they tried a trilogy that didn't become a trilogy with Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale, that I still enjoy it. I thought it was an interesting take on it, and possibly people will say one of the worst, like Terminator Genesis. I think is one of the best. I don't know if I mean, the twist it had on it was great, and it doesn't get a lot of credit that it deserves, but it was really good. It was good. I enjoyed it. And if you're a fanboy, fan person, fangirl, whatever you want to call it, if you're a true fan of a series, you're going to stick with it. If we talk about trilogies, obviously the Star Wars trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies. the original series, I think, with Empire and A New Hope, which was Star Wars when I grew up. And then later on it became Episode 4, A New Hope, which is fine. Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But yeah, Lord of the Rings, I think, got better with each film. Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and then Return of the King. Return of the King was beyond epic. It just wouldn't end, and it was like Endgame was like that. Avengers Endgame, but you almost didn't want it to end. But you know, it's funny when I see a film. Sometimes I'm really excited about it. Like I enjoyed Shazam, but was it as good as I thought? You know, that's where the fun thing is to revisit a film, and then you say, well, hey, did I really like it as much as I thought I did? And sometimes your tastes do change over the years, and one can have different ways they feel about films. And it's I still enjoy some of the films I like. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you enjoy a film, you should, franchise, they can keep making Terminator films. I don't care if they're bad. I still am going to watch them. I like the idea, the concept of them. I want them to be good. I don't want it. I'm not just a sucker for a rotten film, but yeah, you slap Terminator on something and I'm probably going to watch it because it's still intriguing to me. I don't know why. I just like it. It's like Star Wars. The old saying was, bad Star Wars is like cold pizza. It's still good, even if it's bad, or even if it's, or whatever. But, so anyway, what are some of the big bombs of the year in box office? Godzilla, on a budget of $170 million. $170 million is a lot of money. It's only pulled in domestically about 106. And I'm going to click and see real quick what it's done. It's done 270 at the foreign box office with 106 domestic, gives it about 376 million. I guess you'd call that profit, and you got to work out all the advertisement and blah blah blah. And I'm excited to see Godzilla versus King Kong. I think that's going to be awesome. And but this one just didn't have enough monsters in it, even though it had a bunch of monsters in it. It just was it was like some of the Transformers films, the Michael Bay Transformers films. They had too much humans in it. When the humans were on the screen, it took away from the action. They just should have had wall-to-wall action. And I know a senseless, brainless film like that, you can still do an intelligent film and it not have, having drawbacks on things like that. But it's still, possible to do that. And so, alrighty. I guess it sounds like I'm rambling, but I haven't podcasted, and I'm trying this 2-camera little setup here. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I was going to go live on Geek Homeworld, which I told somebody on set today that I was going to go home and do that, and then I just fell out. I was just like exhausted from being on set, and it was fun though, and I love the sense of completion and of making a film. It's very exciting, and meeting different people from all types of backgrounds, and we're just working together as a team. You become like this close-knit family just for a short time. And I'm excited to see the film and all that when it comes out. So I got a lot coming up, so I'm excited. I'm trying my best here. Don't knock my lighting. It's terrible. It's probably not great, or maybe it's really good. I don't know. The GoPro has got that fisheye thing, so it's probably showing a whole bunch of what you don't see here on and I'm not sure if the video is going to be the opposite way when it shows. I'm just not really good at the video part of this. So tear it apart if you want. I don't care. Be nice. Please don't be a troll. Be a nice person. You know, I'm learning. I know sound. I'm pretty good at that. And though the sound on this might be terrible because it's video and I don't have the right interface that I want, but the sound will be good on the recorder here. Now I do have my laptop open here. It's a monster. It's a beast. It's a gaming laptop, and I love it to death. But it sounds like a freight train. I don't have the fan turned up. That's the noise you're hearing, and my cameras are literally right here. I would use the webcam in the computer here, but it's actually not great quality. I'm playing around with Streamlabs or Streamlabs OBS or whatever they want to call it. Slobs is like what it's short for, or an acronym for it. But Streamlabs is awesome. And OBS, I had some things worked out there, but there's still a few little things that I just have not figured out, and I don't want to run things through a mixer. I'm using my professional audio equipment here to record the audio here, so the audio is going to be much better. The video, actually, I've got a Note 9 phone that I'm recording the video, and I like the fact that I can see the video. And I'm wondering, this little flashing sign that you can't see, obviously, if you're listening to it, but I know it may be cool, it may be cheesy, I don't know. I needed some kind of backlight. I'm going to work on I'm pointing in the video here just for the people listening to the audio. I'm working on some of these shelves here with some of my collectibles, and no, I don't have a great collection of collectibles. I do have a lot of things that I like. Star Wars, I'm a big fan. Star Trek, superhero films. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right thing, but right here next to the Geek Homeworld sign that changes colors and flashes. Or it doesn't flash, it just changes colors. It cycles through them. But I've got this Avengers, the Metal 10 from the theater when I went and saw that opening night, Avengers Endgame, so that's kind of cool. I've got some collectibles in here. There's a BB-8 up there from a Star Wars. I'm kind of pointing with my finger here or whatever, and then I've got some old microphones here. I got my Blue Yeti, and it's pop filter behind me, and there's a cheesy microphone right there. There's the pass right behind my head to America's Got Talent, where I was a PA, a production assistant for the weekend when they came to our town, and that was fun. There's a little Pez right over my left shoulder here, to the left of me. I don't know what the GoPro is picking up. I'm looking just at my Note 9 camera that I can see directly. But there is a Star Wars Pez dispenser thing. I've never opened it. I'm not a Pez fan so much, but it's cool. It's Star Wars, so I got some other cool things and some cups there. I think this cup right here, and I actually reach for it so you can see it. It's a short film from this year, and called Soldier's Heart. A friend of mine who was on, it's been on my show a couple times, and he was on with some of the people from the film, but it's a short film about post-traumatic stress syndrome, and it's coming soon to a theater near you. They had a sneak peek, and that was kind of cool, but they gave me that nice Yeti mug there, so that Yeti mug is really cool, and it says Soldier's Heart on it, so that's kind of cool. I don't know if you can see this one. That's a Film Savannah one that I got from the film commission there. This is to me, is a collectible. The first film I got to be a production assistant on was Galveston with Ben Foster and Elle Fanning, and I got to intern in the sound department. And it just says Galveston on it, and it's like a sign, a billboard sign. It just has the words Galveston on it. And, you get stuff like this movie swag, so that's kind of cool, And it's a nice stainless steel, but it's pretty cool. And I don't think there's anything in here. No, there is something in here. There's instructions. It's a 24-ounce single-wall stainless steel bottle with threaded lid for cold beverages, but I've never drank out of it. It's just more of a collectible, but that's cool. it's just not nice memory, a nice memento of my time there on set, and where I learned the tricks of the trade in sound. And that's me screwing the cap back on there for the little Galveston mug that I have. So I'm proud of that. That's kind of cool. So you can't see it, but up above my head there is my Vader mask, and everybody's got to have that. I've got my books over. I'm going to give a tour of the studio. I'm still putting up. You're probably seeing, especially with the wide angle, my walls are still not complete. I have not decided what I'm hanging up there yet. So anyway, this is rambling on, I guess, or whatever. I'm going to get better at these, I promise. But anyway, thank you for listening to the Geek Homeworld podcast. Next time I'm probably going to do, if I can find a time, I'm trying to figure out when people are most online or whatever, that they aren't at work during the day, or they're not working at night, or whatever, that they could watch. I guess it doesn't matter. I just need to set a time, but where I can go live on Geek Homeworld on Facebook Live, Geek Homeworld, and I can take your questions live there, and of course I'll record the audio as always, and it'll be on my main website for the podcast is geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. That's geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. So you can go there. You can follow me on Twitter at Geek Homeworld. Also, I'm have an account on Twitter at SavageTechman. SavageTechman on Twitter. And I haven't been tweeting as much, but I usually repost links to some of the episodes that I probably want you to listen to. So maybe you can check that out. That would be cool. You can't see it, but I have a chair identical to this gaming chair that I have here. I got a killer deal from Office Depot on these chairs. They were like on a major sale, and so they had the blue and black, and I ended up with the red and black. I'm a Bulldogs fan, so being from Georgia, kind of have to be. And I don't know, just I like the red and the black, and it reminds me, I like the red's my favorite color, but I like the red and black combination because it's more Emperor Palpatine kind of, Sith colors. I don't know. This red and black just looks cool. It just looks awesome. Like on a car, if it were red and black, it's awesome, But anyway, so thank you very much for listening to the Geek Homeworld podcast. This is going to serve, hopefully, yes, it will. I'm just going to call it and say this is going to be episode 115 of the Geek Homeworld podcast. And I know I promised you a shorter episode. I was really trying. I had to send my sound reports and stuff like that tonight from the film I was on, so I had to get all that done. And it was literally almost midnight before I got done, because I got home and I think we went to eat, but I just got home and crashed. I was just so tired, being on set, but it's exhilarating too. And I love it. But I was trying to get everything out, but using Libsyn, it turned over to July 1st, so I technically didn't put a new episode out in June. And there were times I sat down, I was trying different camera angles and say, well, I'll just record something audio. And then I was like, it was like round after Dark Phoenix. I really wanted to go on and I wanted to do an episode and say that it's not as bad as you think. And then I wanted to, incorporate video to it. Just didn't work. It just all did not work out. So, I'm lazy sometimes, so I may just, if this video turns out well, I may just take this video off my phone and upload it to the YouTube channel, so you have the video version of this, and of course the audio version automatically goes up there to YouTube, Geek Homeworld on YouTube, and but I may just take this as like B-roll that I'm kind of pointing at, and this could be totally reversed, so I'm pointing to my left a little bit, my GoPro camera, and the GoPro doesn't, bad thing is it does not hook it. It's the 2014 GoPro, is it Hero? I'm looking at GoPro Hero. 2014 model, and it doesn't plug into the. I mean, when it plugs in like my USB ports or USB-C, it doesn't recognize it. But it just it's done the upgrades, but I had to fight really hard with it to try to get it to upgrade, and it did an upgrade, but it's still not the latest version of the software. But it actually is the waterproof cam version, and it's awesome. I've never really used it much, not as much as I had intended to, and but maybe I'll take it out and do some stuff, some fun stuff. I don't know, but camera technology is just, this wasn't even. This is it shoots in 1080, 30 frames per second, so I'm not sure exactly what my Note 9 is shooting in it. So, and I hope I get the video the right orientation. I'm, sideways here. What's that? Landscape mode. Yeah, the 16:9 aspect ratio. And, but what's funny is when I do the, I mistakenly one time did that on Facebook and did like one of those videos or whatever, Facebook Lives, and, but I have to do those, the vertical video. So yeah, it's got, the bars and all that, but it seems to work better when I do Sven on film when I do it that way. I have been playing around with some using the GoPros like B-roll, and I'm trying to think up a multi-camera setup that I can figure out that's easy to set up, easy to tear down when I do Sven on film, my radio show. And so I'm working through that. So those are some of the things. I know I'm talking about a lot of subjects, talked a lot about box office here, which I like to do, and what films are doing and what films are good, and but we also talk about, like geek stuff. I got a friend I'm trying to get to come onto the show and talk more about comics and, like what's current and all. I may add that to the show. I don't know. That's the wonderful thing of this podcast. It can be whenever I want it to be. And if you're not podcasting, now everybody's jumping on board. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I've shied away from video very much. I just didn't want to be on video, and now I'm trying to join the video revolution a little bit too late, maybe, but I don't, it doesn't matter. I mean, I want you to watch. I want this to be interactive. I'd love to get the chat going. I'd love to finally figure out some overlays, and I can do chats and different things, but maybe just talking to a camera sometimes is the best thing. I don't know, but we'll work it out. Anyway, I promise this is the end of the episode. It's a long episode. Usually my Geek Homeworld episodes are, I usually have an outline, and they're usually about 30 minutes, and something for you to easily digest. But I wanted to do a video, and it's been a while, and so basically it's been since like maybe May 20th-ish since I put an episode, and it's technically July 1st. So I feel like I owed the audience here of Geek Homeworld a longer episode. So thank you for supporting the podcast and listening, and the feedback and everything, and send me some positive feedback if you want. I don't want anything negative. No trolls, no mean. Let's not be mean, let's be nice, so I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll shut up now. And this concludes episode 115 of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to cut off my B-roll camera now. There you go. I'll turn that off. Thank you, GoPro. And now I'm going to cut off the video here and the audio. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.